All right, y'all. So what we're going to do today is just go over a HUD or closing statement or settlement statement. Okay. So this is the document that you have to review when you are buying or selling property. Once it goes through the title company and it gets to the closing table, this is the final form that everybody signs. So you want to make sure that this is right, especially, if you see this at all, you want to review it, know what you're looking at, and know how to identify any issues that need to be corrected or updated. Okay. Now, for me specifically, I see this a lot because we wholesale a lot of properties. So when you are wholesaling, even though you don't have to sign the HUD settlement statement, you still need to review this to make sure that everything is intact with your assignment fee and that they have your money right. Okay. Because if you're doing wholesaling, if you're doing it right, you are putting down the earnest money deposit and you are getting an assignment fee out of the deal. And you want to make sure that that is all listed here on the HUD settlement statement. All right, so we're going to start at the top, and this is a deal that we just closed, was this 2 weeks ago? So I'm going to go through this, and we're going to start at the top. So right here is going to go through the type of loan, and this is important because that lets you know typically how quickly the deal can get done, but you want to already know this up front anyway, whether you're selling a remodel house on the market or you're picking up a deal that you're going to wholesale. You want to know how your buyer is paying. That is going to let you know how quickly this can potentially get to the closing table. And the best way for a buyer to pay is going to be cash. All right. Now, even if your buyer is getting a hard money loan, it is still going to say cash here because it's not an FHA or VA or conventional, and it's not a seller finance. So when you go hard money loan, they're still going to count that as a cash sale. So that is important to know. So this was a cash sale. I believe this buyer actually, okay, yep. And so when you know if it's going to be hard money or actual cash sale where they're actually paying cash and doing a wire transfer, when you get right here, all right, because it's going to say name and address of the lender. And you can see here, this is a hard money lender and this is their address. All right. But back up here. So this is a cash sale. Then we go to the file number. This is not really important. I mean, every deal that you do is going to have its own specific file number. And then the loan number, this is only for the buyer. This is the loan number for the hard money loan that they are getting. Mortgage insurance case number, that is not relevant to our deal. See, and this is a note. This form is furnished to give you a statement of actual settlement costs. Amounts paid to and by the settlement agent are shown. Items marked POC were paid outside of closing. They are shown here for informational purposes and are not included in the totals. All right. So we're going to continue to go down. So name and address of the buyer. Baradenia, I'm going to guess is her name. I'm not sure. My partner does the dispo, so he sells all the deals. I just get the sellers under contract. But this is the name of the buyer. And this is also the borrower. So they are buying this property and they're also borrowing the money from the lender. Okay. So you want to make sure that name is right. Then we get to the name and address of the seller. So Virginia Brown is a lady who is actually selling this property to us. Okay. This is not the property we bought, but she had another property, and this is the lady who's actually selling it. You want to make sure the seller's name is correct. Now, if this is an inherited property and there are multiple heirs, then it will list multiple sellers here, okay? Name and address of the lender. We just went through this. This is the buyer's hard money lender. Then we get down to property location. So this is the property that we actually got under contract and are wholesaling, all right? So this is the legal description here. That's what you will find on the county records. I'm sorry. This is the legal description that you will find on the county records. And then this, of course, is just the property address in itself. Then we have the settlement agent name, and the settlement agent is going to be the title company. So we use Capital Title of Texas. This is one of our favorite title companies to use. We have a really great relationship with them. They are located in Plano. And, you know, that's just a small plug if you're doing wholesale deals in DFW or any type of real estate deal for that matter. Okay. Then this is their underwriter or insurance company. The place of settlement is going to be at the title company. So same address you see here. And then the settlement date. This is important because once you review the HUD, and we like to review the HUDs at least 24 hours before closing. That way we give title time to correct or update any mistakes that are made before we print out the finals and have them signed and notarized by the seller and buyer. Okay. So it's important you get this HUD statement or request this HUD statement at least 24 hours before closing. So the settlement date was the 20th of February and the funding date was the 20th of February. You want to make sure ideally that these are the same date, but regardless, just make sure they line up with what you are expecting. So if you're expecting to close on the 20th of February, make sure this says the 20th of February. If you're expected to fund the same day, then make sure title has that there as well. And that's generally going to let you know if this is going to fund the same day. In this event, it did. So let's keep going down. So this is where it gets really important. So we have a buyer side. We have a buyer side summary of borrower's transaction. So the buyer and the borrower, same person. So we have the buyer side, which is separated by this line here. And then we have the seller side. Okay. So this is what, this is the contract price that we got locked up with the seller. And I'm going to do the seller side first. Okay. So this is the contract sales price. Want to make sure that is correct. And then it'll usually have any taxes or anything that are owed here, but she actually didn't owe anything, which is very surprising. She had everything paid up, but you want to make sure that the amounts here are correct. All right. So sometimes there will be city property taxes, county property taxes, school property taxes that are owed, and those amounts will be listed here and then deducted from this amount. Okay. Reductions in amount due to seller. You see, she had absolutely no reductions here. Okay. That is really not typical. But I mean, she was on top of her business. She had all her taxes and everything paid off. She didn't have any liens to her name. If she had any liens or mortgages or anything like that, all of those amounts will be listed here. Okay. So if you know that your deal has taxes owed or liens owed and things like that, that have been uncovered on a title commitment throughout the transaction, then you want to make sure they line up here with the correct amounts. And then those amounts would be reduced, would be added up here. And this amount would be reduced from the seller's overall portion. And then it will show the what they will actually walk away with right here on this final line that says cash to seller. So the cash to seller line is what the seller will walk away with in their pocket after the sale. Now, in this event, again, which is really rare, the seller here had absolutely no debts to be paid off, not even taxes, not even a penny. So she literally walked away with $115,000, exactly what we offered her. All right. But we can continue to scroll down and you can just see down here, it will just list again any taxes that were owed. It will list them again here and then total them all up down here. But as you can see, again, the seller side is completely blank. She did not owe anything. And then notary fees, attorney fees, these are title costs that we typically pay for, and that's in our contract. That's one of the benefits of working with us as a wholesale company. We take care of all closing costs, which essentially means we move that closing cost, which essentially means that we move the burden of paying those closing costs. We pass that over to our end buyer. Okay. So we don't pay the closing costs, but our end buyer will pay the closing costs. And we set that expectation for our buyer up front so they do know this. All right. So there we have on the seller side. Now we're going to do the buyer side. Okay. So contract price is going to still be the same amount. Even though we assign this to him at a higher price, we're going to see that reflected later in the HUD. So the contract sales price should be the same as the original contracted sales price. And then $26,353.80 are all of the charges that are charged to the borrower or our buyer. And then it's going to break down those amounts here. Okay. So with the 115 purchase price plus the charges that are charged to the buyer, this is the total amount that the buyer has to bring to closing. Okay, to complete this deal or buy this property. So let's get to it. So the buyer put down $3,000 in earnest money and they are getting a loan for $121,000. Okay. Then we continue to come down. So that means total paid for by the buyer is 124. This is what's pretty much already being paid for the buyer. So they're getting a loan for 121, and then they already put down $3,000 in earnest money, which brings us to 124,000. Now we subtract this 124,000 from this total that we saw earlier, and it leaves $17,353.80. This is what the buyer has to physically bring to closing to close this deal. They have to bring this amount either in a cashier's check or in the form of a wire. All right. So let's break down how they got to $26,353.80 in fees. It's going to be on page 2 of the HUD right here on the borrower's funds at settlement. So $2,000 of that was a loan fee charged by their hard money lender. Another $699 was a doc fee charged by their hard money lender. Interest to be paid in advance for the loan, which is 11 days. So $38.48 a day. Brought them to this amount here, and that's going to be completely up to the lender to determine what that amount may be. Then they paid the notary fees for this deal to get closed, because some people signed virtually at home, so we have to get a notary. The buyer did pay the notary fees. The buyer also paid the attorney fees for the title company. The buyer also paid for their title insurance policy, which is typical. The buyer paid the escrow fee, the courier fee, the state of Texas policy guarantee fee. They paid the tax deletion fee, the not yet due fee, whatever that even means, the T36 environmental protection fee. So every fee or charge that is to the buyer or the seller will be listed on the HUD. Okay. Recording charges, tax certificate, e-recording, and these are some of the closing costs that the seller would typically have to pay. But since our assignment agreement says the buyer pays our closing costs, the buyer knows he is responsible for these costs on behalf of the seller, so they can walk away with that full amount that we offer them. That is always our goal. Okay, so these are all the amounts that are charged to the seller. These are all the amounts charged to the buyer. And then here's where our fee comes in as the wholesaler. Right at the bottom, assignment fee. Okay, the assignment fee to Home Affordable LLC. This is my company. I can't highlight this for some reason, but Home Affordable LLC is my company. And you can see here, our assignment fee for this deal was $20,000. Okay, so let's add that up. We offered the seller $115, and then we added on a $20,000 assignment fee, which means we assigned this to our buyer at $135,000. Okay, so our assignment fee is $20,000. The buyer can see this. Again, this is the buyer side of the HUD. The seller cannot see this because they can only see their side of the HUD, but the buyer does know we're making $20,000. When we submitted this agreement to the title company, we put down, an earnest money deposit of $150, and we're also getting that back. Okay, now they didn't put it in a settlement line because it's not coming out of the HUD. They just put it here to reflect we have already paid in this $150, and they're going to wire us our $150 back. It does not have to be on the HUD, but they are making notice here that, hey, these guys did pay down earnest money of their own, and we're going to send that back. And you see here it says POC, and that was up here in the top in the notes. Items marked POC were paid outside the closing. They are shown here for informational purposes and are not included in the totals. The HUD gonna let you know everything you need to know, all right? And then we have a transaction coordinator. Her name is Kayla, and we charge our buyers $550 for her to transact our deals. And so that's how she gets paid. She is not on salary or payroll with our company. She gets paid per deal, and we don't even pay her. Our buyers pay her. So we essentially have a transaction coordinator absolutely for free. And so once you add all of these fees together, that comes to $26,353.80. which is the same amount showed here. Okay, so that is how the buyer came to this amount in total. And that's how you read a HUD closing statement, man. If you are signing or wholesaling real estate, the most important part of this HUD for you is line 1301, line 1302. All right. You want to make sure you're getting your earnest money back and your assignment fee is correct. And ideally, you want your seller side of the HUD to look just like this. But if they have taxes, liens, and a mortgage and things like that, that's outside of your control. Those will be deducted from here, and the seller will be able to see exactly what they are getting down to the last penny before they sign. That's why it's important to have this document prepared 24 hours before, so the seller isn't surprised or the buyer isn't surprised by any fees they did not expect, and that can delay your closing. All right, then we get down and both parties sign this, and that's it, man. That's how you read a HUD closing statement. This is very important if you are doing real estate, and this applies to any real estate deal. Doesn't matter if it's a rental, fix and flip, a wholesale deal, you're buying a personal house, you're selling a personal house. It does not matter. If there's a HUD statement, you need to be able to read it and know exactly what is going on, y'all. Till the next time, tap in.